Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth, and we are going to talk about something today that impacts everybody. We like to talk about those kind of topics, right? We're going to talk about intuition, but not just intuition. We're going to talk about intuition specifically as it relates to business and even business owners and entrepreneurs. And even more specifically, to get it down a little more granular, we're going to talk about how to listen to your inner CEO. With us this week is Lynn Robinson. She's a best-selling author and one of the nation's leading speakers on the hot topic of developing and trusting our intuition. She teaches how to tap into the power of your inner GPS. Literally, when we were talking and we were considering having Lynn on the show and I saw inner GPS, I'm like, oh my gosh, perfect. That's perfect. Her intuitive consulting clients consistently praise her uncanny insights as spot on. They report greater personal clarity and a deeper understanding of their purpose and calling. Lynn has authored 7 books on intuition that have been published in over 15 languages. Her latest is Put Your Intuition to Work. She's also the author of Divine Intuition. Lynn, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we were talking about intuition, and it had come up a couple different times in conversation with some people. And I'm like, I was talking to people on the team. I'm like, we got to find someone to talk about intuition. And they found, I think, 3 or 4 people, and they're like, okay, we got 3 or 4 people, and yours was at the top of the list, right? And not
Great.
They weren't in no specific order, but they said, they gave me this in an email. And as soon as I saw Inner GPS, so that's like brilliant marketing on your part, Lynn.
Thank you.
I saw Inner GPS. I didn't even read the other 3. I'm like, reached out to Lynn. We got to have Lynn on the show because I love the whole aspect of Inner GPS. I love that phrasing. But Lynn, before we dive into all that stuff, tell us a little bit about your career, entrepreneur journey, and how you got to be, so much into intuition.
Well, I'm glad Inner GPS worked for you, first of all, because I trusted my intuition to come up with that tagline. So, all right, it's working already.
Yeah.
I had such a funny career trajectory. I was the operations manager of a software company in Boston, and I knew that wasn't what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I knew that I was really always passionate about helping people, figure out what they wanted in life, how to live a successful life. I thought about being a psychologist or some kind of a social worker, and none of that fit. And so I decided to launch sort of that entrepreneurial business of helping people use their intuition and using mine to kind of give people some insight about where they're going, where they might be stuck, some inspirational ideas to get them unstuck. So those are the things I'm passionate about. And I think we all have that inner GPS, not just me.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you probably used, maybe unknowingly at the time, you were using your inner GPS and your intuition as you're navigating your career and trying to figure out. It's funny you say that. I said the same thing as, when I left the corporate world and took the entrepreneurial leap, I'm like, now it's time for me to figure out what I want to be when I grow up,
Yes, I know. And do we ever stop doing that? I think we don't. I think we're always thinking about that, even as entrepreneurs. What's our right next step? Which is a good question to ask your intuition. But my business started in such a weird way, and it really was about trusting my gut. I went to see a career counselor around that time, trying to kind of fine tune what I wanted to be or do as an entrepreneur. And she was the one that really taught me about, I guess we now call it law of attraction, but she had me write down like what was my ideal week or month or year, and doing some visualizations about it, like imagining an appointment book full of clients or a beautiful office or money coming into my bank account or things like that. And I'm a big fan of doing that. I think we often don't get clear what we want, but it's such a great starting point. And there's an enormous power, I think, in visualizing something, seeing the outcome as if it's already happened. And that's where I think intuition begins to guide us, because like that inner GPS, it is our inner GPS. And if you program your phone or your car to say, I want to go to a restaurant in this downtown location, it starts to give you direction. And intuition does that to us, for us too. It comes as maybe an insight, an aha moment. It might come as an inner voice. It might come as a dream, or just synchronicities and coincidences starting to show up. And that's what happened for me big time when I decided what I wanted to do. I ended up starting my business at a friend's funeral.
Oh,
I bet
wow.
none of your other guests could make that claim to fame.
I don't think so. And we've had, I don't know, 400 plus guests, and we've never had that one, Lynn.
Yeah. So the brief version of what happened was a friend of mine unfortunately died. I went into the service of his funeral, and I had intended to sit next to one of my friends, but I don't know how to say it other than I felt like I got drawn to sit next to this woman that I didn't know. And the short version of the story is she ended up being a writer for the Boston Globe newspaper. And I did an intuitive session with her, and she said, wow, this is great. I want to write it up in the Boston Globe. She did. And it was called Psychic Psychology. And I ended up getting over 500 clients in the next few months. And that's
Oh,
what
wow.
launched my business 35 years ago. And so it's gone on from then, continuing to trust my own intuition.
Now, so had you started your business at that point, Lynn, or was it this happened and you're like, holy crap, this is the direction I have to go?
Yes, that's it. I mean, sometimes you leap and the net appears, but no, I had kind of taken a bunch of classes in intuition development, and people in the class kept saying, oh, you're really good at this, or how did you know this about me? And so I totally went out on a limb and talking to this woman about my interest in starting this business. And so she was one of my first real clients. So talk about being courageous. It was scary, but fortunately she liked what I said and the insight I provided. So that article was pretty amazing. It had a long shelf life too. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've only got a couple of minutes left here before we hit a break, but before we get any further into the whole intuition thing, what can you define it for us? Because I know a lot of people have ideas of what it is,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
in your mind and your expertise.
The dictionary defines it as quick and ready insight. I think we all have it. There's two forms of thought about it. One is that it's based on some past experience that we've had that we kind of tap into subconsciously to give us a good decision. I also think equally that it's what I call divine intuition. It's something that we are tapped into some greater intelligence that helps us make these decisions, that helps us find our purpose in life, that helps us move towards success. And so I think both of those things exist, and both of those things are true.
Well, so then my follow-up is, where does it come from?
That's always a really good question. And my favorite definition actually came from a 15-year-old who said, intuition is like when you know something, but like, where does it come from?
Right.
And I don't really know. I mean, I think part of it absolutely is your subconscious. And the other part I'm going to assign to divine intelligence. And I don't think that's a religious thing particularly, but I think we are all connected to a higher knowledge, a divine intelligence, an intuitive wisdom, and we call it lots of different things. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I mean, I've thought about that before because, the where does it come from type of thing. And I like what you said because, and I think a lot of people think of the word divine and they think, religion right away. And I don't think of that
Right.
necessarily. I just think, you could be an atheist and you probably have some
I
sort of
agree.
divine,
Yes.
thinking
Yeah.
and it has
Right.
evolved, whether
Right.
you're not religious or not at all, or you are.
Yeah, I agree. Because to me, it's not a religious thing at all. But I do think that, we're born with an inner guidance that directs us, that I believe helps point us in the direction of success. And, we can talk after the break about some very specific ways that we can tap into it. Because I think that there's so many ways. There's no one way that's the right way.
Yeah, perfect. And I want to also ask you next segment, Lynn, a little bit about, you brought up the law of attraction. So I want to talk about that too and how it
Great.
interacts with
One of my favorite topics.
with intuition.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@mrbizsolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And again, this week we're talking with Lynn Robinson. You can find out more, and we'll put this in the show notes as well. LynnRobinson.com. She's all over social media. She's on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, and also on Instagram. So Lynn, you mentioned 3 magical words, and it sounds like they're magical for you too, during the first segment. I knew it was going to be like a long thing, so I don't want to bring it up in the first segment, and I wanted to get through a couple of those other things, but the law of attraction. So I have to admit, I had heard of it, hadn't done anything, seen anything, read anything about it until probably, I want to say it may have been during COVID, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled upon the movie on, I don't know, Netflix or whatever the heck it's
Right.
on. And I was fascinated. I saw the movie and I waited, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days. I watched the movie again. Then I went out and bought the book. I read the book.
You're talking about the Secret? Is that the one you're
Secret,
talking
yeah,
about?
The
Yeah,
Secret,
Secret.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then bought a couple other Rhonda Byrne's books. So I've seen the movie now probably 5, 6 times, maybe 7
Wow.
times. I had my older daughter watch it with me. I said, "You got to see this.
Good.
She's into
Yes.
things like that as well." So I had her watch it with me, and got done watching it. She's like, "Okay, I got to go buy the book." So, and then I went and bought because I wanted to make sure that I was keeping sort of in practice. I bought the daily desk calendar.
Oh, great.
And so every day I can, read whatever it is we were talking about, before
Mhm.
the show, the short attention span nowadays. It's like, man, I can kind of get a little quick,
Hit on it.
law of
Yeah.
attraction kind of thing in here, at the beginning of every day. And it's pretty short and easy to consume. So what are the tie-ins between intuition and the law of attraction?
Oh, there's such an important tie-in. I mean, the nutshell version to me of law of attraction is that you attract what you focus on. Now, I think that's vastly oversimplified. I think there's some complexity to it. But the thing that I like to do as a technique is to write down the outcome I want, not how it's going to happen, but I want this amount of business success, or I want my business to look this way, or I want wonderful, happy clients. And I tend to make it pretty general, not specific. And then the second part of what I do every day for 4 or 5 minutes, I just sit and I close my eyes. And to be honest, I kind of talk to myself as if I have what I want. I'm really enjoying my business. I really, appreciate so much of this success. I mean, whatever your goals are, I mean, that's the kind of general outcome that I focus on. And then the third step, and here's kind of where the intuition piece comes in. So often we don't take action on our dreams, or we get lost and I don't know what to do, or this feels so overwhelming. So with my eyes still closed, I just say to myself, what could I do today to move in the direction of this dream? And to me, that's often an intuitive answer. It's like it doesn't always feel like it gets answered from my logical brain. Oh, I should do this. I try to tell people to pay attention to what feels exciting, interesting, you're curious about. There's a sense of relief or peace about the decision. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be something like write a book. It could be call an old client. It could be write a blog. It could be go to a class or a meeting. I mean, it's those kinds of things that when they have an energy about them, that's your intuition guiding you. And I think of that as my intuitive business plan. I mean, I have all of the years I've been in business, I've never had a traditional business plan. It's basically what I just described. But I think law of attraction is wonderful. And to me, part of the belief is that there is an intelligence in this world that wants us to share our gifts, that wants us to be successful. And to me, that's just my favorite technique of kind of tapping into intuition. And I love teaching about this. I obviously have a big passion for it.
Yeah, I love it. And one of the things you said, and I think when I've talked to people about this after I watched the movie and now I've gotten into the subject or whatever, is, I've talked to some people that, close friends, and they're like, that's kind of hocus pocus, foo-foo stuff or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So, so I did it, and I think I saw Tony Robbins do this in a video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, he was being interviewed by someone, and same thing. He was talking kind of about the law of attraction, and he said, look around the room for 30 seconds. Just look around and kind of study everything in the room and look for everything that's green. And so they, fast forward 30 seconds or whatever.
Right.
And the person said, okay. And he said, tell me what you saw that was purple. And the guy that was interviewing him said, he's looking at me, he goes, don't look around. Tony Robbins said, don't look around. And he said, I didn't see anything purple. He said, how many things did you see that were green? And he said, 12 things. And he's like, there, all around the room.
Yeah.
And as he's pointing out the green things, he's like, oh, there's a purple vase and there's a purple picture
Wow.
frame.
Yeah.
And Tony was using that to illustrate. He's like, it's what you're looking for, you're going to find. And be careful what those things are.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was telling producer Alan this earlier. Today I was scrambling around and I hit a couple red lights in a row because I'm in a hurry, of course. So now I'm like, why all these stupid red lights? And then, as the proverbial everyone always says, oh my gosh, I hit every red light on the way here, because that's how it felt. And honestly, you can call it hocus pocus or whatever, but I'm looking for red lights at that point. I'm looking for green lights. I'm looking for red lights, and I'm getting upset because I keep hitting red lights. And so I think it is, those illustrations, to anyone who's really doubtful about that, that I thought it was super powerful, yet simple and practical, with the thing that Tony Robbins did of look for everything green. And then, what did you see? Purple. I didn't see anything. And then, holy crap, there's purple stuff everywhere,
And what I think, Ken, that a lot of us as entrepreneurs do is we do get focused on what we don't want. And a lot of it's, what I talk to my clients about is negative self-talk, like, oh, I really want this kind of business success, but here's all the reasons that I can't get it. I don't have the confidence, or I don't have the education, or, Ken's better at it than I am. And I think that in a way that's taking our eyes off of the focus that we want. And so that's a lot of what I, kind of love kind of tuning into about people. It's like, where are you getting yourself stuck? Where are you, keep looking for those red lights instead of green lights, for example. So I think your example is a great one. We take our eyes off the prize.
Yeah. Well, and we've had Dr. No St. John's been on our show
I know him.
several times, actually. And he has a thing, if it sounds like you're familiar with his work, of affirmations.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. The first time he was on the show and he talked about it, and he said, our brains are basically like Google. And he said, so the way he approaches it with his affirmations is he says, let's say you want to be wealthy. Why am I so wealthy? Because intuitively, your brain starts to figure out the answer to the question you ask.
Yes. Yeah. And when we get to the next segment, I would love to talk about the right questions to ask your intuition, because often we ask those kind of defeating questions. Why am I hitting so many red lights? Or why am I not successful? Or why am I not making any money? And those are not the powerful questions to ask your intuition. So I think there's some really powerful ones, kind of what Dr. St. John was talking about. And, also the self-talk. I mean, when you say things to yourself like, I'll figure it out, or, good things come my way, or, what do I need to know right now about this? I mean, those are really good questions to, statements or questions to ask yourself.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you again, Lynn. Again, I'm very very forthright and transparent. So as I was hitting every red light, and then I get behind the guy who's, the poor guy's probably going, 45 and a 45, but I want to go 50 or more, right? And I'm like, why is this bozo driving so dang slow, right? Again, the wrong questions to be asking, right? And I can't get around him because the person comes up this side, I'm stuck and I'm super frustrated. But those questions and that self-talk, I've really, from The Secret, really tuned into that. And I'm certainly not perfect at it, but I think I've gotten a lot better at it. But again, talking with Lynn Robinson this week, lynnrobinson.com. We'll come back after the break, and we're going to talk more about finding your inner CEO.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Lynn, our time is running short. We've only got about 9 minutes left together here for this show. But what are some things that we can do as business owners to really tune in and listen to our inner CEO as business owners?
Well, one of the ways is simply to pay attention to how you do get intuitive information. So again, gut feelings, images, feelings, inner voice, a dream, synchronicities and coincidences appearing. And as I said in the last segment, I really like asking empowering questions. So, why am I failing is not a great question, but things like a question or a request for information. So I need information about this new hire, or what should I do about this difficult situation in my business, or how could I make more money? And even though I do this for a living, I don't always find that the information comes in right this hot minute, but I do find that through the next maybe 24 hours or so, I might get drawn to a conversation. I might hear a podcast. I might hear that inner voice or have that aha moment when I'm walking the dog or doing the dishes, taking a shower. Those are often when the information comes in. But you also may just get drawn to the right circumstances or overhear a conversation. So think about the outcome that you want, to make X number of dollars or more, or to have this, some specific success in your life, and then write it down. And then I like having a pad of paper and a pen. You can certainly do this on the keyboard rather than the old-fashioned way, but I like to brainstorm the answers and like I'll just write down whatever comes to me really quickly. And then when I open my eyes, I just kind of go, okay, which one of these answers feels most appealing? Which one feels exciting? Which one gives me a sense of peace? Sometimes that's all you get. But I like, I also think meditating is really a great thing. I like meditating to music. It helps me kind of calm the channel to get the intuitive information. And a good intuitive answer. I'll tell you one other technique that I find super helpful is try a decision on for size and see how it feels in your body. Like, for example, I'm going to make this big purchase of this equipment. And just says, how does it feel? Do you feel shut down? Do you feel energized? So shut down, maybe an X through, you might get symbolic pictures. That's always a no answer. But again, peaceful, open, energized is the answer, saying go in that direction. So there's so many different ways to answer it. But I also pay attention to what you're saying to yourself. If you're saying things like, I'm not successful, or this doesn't work for me, or, but one of the reasons, Ken, I think that intuition is so important now is more than ever is we can't just pay attention to what's worked before on a logical or rational level, or what our competitors are doing. I think intuition is required now more than ever in our history to come up with creative solutions, to take inspired action, to do that work that we want to do to help change the world for the better. So intuition is a guide for helping us do those things.
So Lynn, how much do you think, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on this. How much do you think that people don't utilize their intuition enough, or maybe don't trust their intuition because they have limiting beliefs in their mind, or they're the, I hate to say this, but they're the type of person at work when they say, oh, we have a new process, and they go, that'll never work.
That'll never work.
I haven't told you the process yet, right?
Yeah.
They're that type of person. Like I talked about in my last book, I call it starting with yes. Like no matter what the idea is, start with yes. How can we do it?
Great, good question.
Maybe when you get to the end, you go, well, that's not feasible. We don't have $1 million to invest, so we can't do that. Okay, so we'll move on. But we've at least considered if someone put it, the proverbial, if someone put a gun to your head and said, you have to do this, how would you do it? And think about that.
Yeah. And again, you're starting from the outcome you want. How would we do this if this is what our goal is? What would a successful business do if they were going to have that as a goal? And so that's a great intuitive question. The thing that I notice a lot in my sessions with people that stops a lot of us entrepreneurs is we feel scared. And You know, I think that one of my favorite books is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Because I think a lot of times people interpret that fear as it's my intuition telling me don't do it. But I think you guys kind of have to make peace or make friends with that fear. Because, oh my gosh, I know when I first started my business, to be honest, I used to cry after my clients came, like, when are they going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing? And I know a lot of us have that, that imposter syndrome or whatever we wanted to call it. But I think sometimes we wish that the confidence fairy would come and sprinkle her fairy dust over us. But honestly, I think it's doing the thing we're scared to do makes us more confident, makes us better at what we do, and makes us more empathic to other people, other employees and clients that may be going through the same thing. So it's to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I'm so grateful that I did that, because it's made my life be a big adventure and fun. And honestly, I think that's where intuition leads us, is to have a joyful life, to have a fun life, to have a successful life, and a prosperous life.
It's interesting as you're saying all this stuff, Lynn. I literally had never thought about this before, but my approach, I used to compete athletically, and when I was chasing a world record, I didn't think like, oh my gosh, it's a world record, I can never do that. I thought, how do I get from where I'm at now to exceeding this world record? So as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, I was
You
literally
use the formula. Yeah.
I was envisioning it happened already, to figure out how do I, okay, so now I know this is the goal, right? So now what are the steps I need to take in between? How I'm starting with yes, how do I figure out how the heck to get there? I didn't start with, and it's funny enough, one of my training partners, when I first told him one of my first goals wasn't even a world record, he said, and he knew me well, and he wasn't a negative guy or whatever. He said, you might want to pump the brakes on that. That's pretty ambitious. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'll figure it. And
I'll
for the
figure
law
it
of
out.
attraction,
Yep.
yeah, the law of attraction type thing, I had no idea. And I kept it general because I didn't know how I was going to get there.
I think
because
that's
I was
really
only
smart.
here and I needed to get here, right? But I've got this general thing. I want to accomplish this. I'll figure it out along the way. And there's going to be bumps and roads and twists in the road and ups mountains and valleys and everything else, but I'll figure it out. And I'd never thought about that until you just mentioned that earlier, Lynn.
So you were using law of attraction well before you learned about law of attraction. Yeah.
Like way before. This was,
Yeah.
I mean, back in, gosh, like mid 2000s, this is 20 years ago.
Right. And there's a lot of research on this law of attraction model in athletics, in sports, people who visualize the perfect ski run or the perfect golf swing or whatever. And so I think there's a lot of power in that. And then, asking making the statement, I'll figure this out. And, not necessarily, you're not avoiding your logical, rational mind, of course, but you're utilizing the intuition again of just saying, what's the best way to proceed? What's my next right step? What could I do today to move in the direction of this dream? And so, interestingly, you were doing all of those things without knowing the process, but you kind of figured it out. And I do think that that's a really amazing and powerful process to use.
It is. This is like a therapy session, Lynn. So during the process, I had injuries.
Yeah.
And I didn't say, oh, well, I'll never get there. I said, okay, how do I maneuver around this? How do I continue to make progress in other areas that will contribute, right? And you mentioned, taking small steps. I used to carry around, I've got one over there for a goal I have now. They're the little tiny ones, but I had to write it. I had to write down at least 5 things. At the end of the day, I would say, what are 5 things I did today to get me closer to that goal?
Perfect.
Every single day.
You've got an A+ on intuition, Ken.
I didn't even know I was doing it. I'm telling you, Lynn, I've never thought about this until you're bringing these up. I'm like, holy crap, I was doing this. I was doing this 20 years ago. I just never really knew it.
Yeah. And I think those visual reminders, I love doing vision boards, having pictures of, my happy life and whatever that looks like in the current moment. So you did that through your Post-it notes and affirmations. And I think that's another great technique. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been fun. Stuff, this went by way too fast.
Yeah, it did. It did. We're out of time here, Lynn. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It was fantastic.
Thanks.
Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm sure you got a lot out of this. Send us questions, feedback, things like that. We always love to hear from our viewers and listeners. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.